C. A second fact about the sane person is that, to an unusual degree, his own feelings and emotions, his own resentments and tensions, his attractions and his dislikes are, in Roger's terms, accessible to awareness. This is C, that the fully functioning person allows himself to be aware of his emotions, aware of feelings that might not even fit into his self-concept. All right, read this with me. Hayakawa says, we all have some kind of self-concept or some type of self-image. Thus, we may think of ourselves as efficient, hard-boiled or kind-hearted, lovable or unlovable, artistic or practical, or so on. Okay, right now, think of one thing. If I said, describe yourself, Sarah, if I said, describe yourself to me, what would you think of yourself as? Do you have that thing? Have one description. You say, this is a personality trait of myself. Can you think of one thing? Nikki, what's yours? Give me one.
Friendly.
Friendly, good. Don, give me one.
Caring.
Caring, good. Give me one.
Nice.
Nice. And you laugh. All right, take a look. I have put myself out there. I generally think I did not do about a teacher because I know there are many, many different maps out there of the territory. But I think of myself as a loving, nurturing, caring mother. That's something that I think that I've chosen my profession to be. I've rearranged my schedule so that I can love and care for my children and my family. But sometimes, Hayakawa says, we all have these impulses or feelings, and they don't fit our self-concept. In that the man who thinks of himself as really hard-boiled and tough may feel a twinge of humane sentiment that he would not know what to do with. For example, it's a really, really tough football player, a hockey player, wrestler who is really proud that he's tough and he's invulnerable and he's really aggressive. And then one day he sees a baby and he starts to feel emotional. Like, look at this gift of life. This is a miracle. And yet, oh, what is that? He pushes it down. He suppresses it because, hey, I'm tough. That's my self-concept. Or the person who thinks of himself as extremely gentle may suddenly find himself with a sadistic impulse. For example, I'm not going to give you any lowbrow examples of my anger towards my children, but once in a while, believe it or not, a lot, I find myself getting angry at my children. They might do something, and I will just, while I am nurturing and caring and loving. Sometimes I get angry. What so-called quote-unquote normal people do with these wellings of unexpected feeling that arise inside them is they suppress them. I'm not angry. I'm loving. I'm caring. How dare you call me angry, self? They deny them to awareness, since to admit them to awareness would mean their reorganization of their picture. We're talking here about maps and territories, that they have a different map. This is in chapter 2 that you're reading. They have a different map than the territory of themselves. For example, I've put it up here. If I was to be an insane person, which I think we all are to varying degrees, I would say to myself, I think I am a loving, caring, nurturing mother. How dare I think of myself as angry? I'm going to suppress that. That's not true. Read along with me. The way in which, however, a genuine psychologically healthy person differs from the so-called normal person in this respect is in the fact that he is aware of his own feelings. He doesn't try to suppress them. He often acts upon them, and even if he does not act upon them, he is able to admit them to awareness. All right, I'll give you an example. The other week, we had been painting my daughter Ella's room, and we had painted it. It was perfectly done, and my husband had finished with the roller, and he left the roller in a bag, and he was going to finish up another portion of the house with that painted roller. Well, Ella saw the roller, and she got it out, and she started doing her bed, her closet, her chair, which is made out of fabric. Yes, artistic to say the least. I came upstairs. She had paint in her hair, and paint on the furniture, and paint on the. And needless to say, this loving, caring, nurturing mother was angry. Was very angry to see paint all over the house. I allowed myself to get angry, and I did not suppress those feelings and say, I am loving and nurturing. I'm not going to acknowledge my anger. If I did that, if I never allowed myself to say, Ella, that was wrong, that was not okay for you to go doing that, then she would not have learned a lesson. But eventually when I talked to her, she said, I just wanted to help you guys out. And we did have a good discussion, and she did have to help us clean it all up, the hardwood floors and all different things. But I am able to say, I got angry, and how can I deal with that? And I did. You know, it's good to then be able to talk about those things with somebody, to be able to read books, and to be able to reorganize your map when you see that things come up that you didn't expect there to be. Read this with me. One time Hayakawa, and I think this was Rogers, he said he formerly had a patient who could not freely feel pain or illness because being ill meant for him being unacceptable. Neither could he feel tenderness and love for his child because such feelings meant being weak, and he had to maintain his facade of being strong. After therapy, though, he can be genuinely open to the experience of his organism. He can be tired when he is tired. He can feel pain when his organism is in pain. He can freely experience love that he feels for his daughter, and he can also feel and express annoyance for her when he feels annoyed. This is so key. Take this down. He can fully live the experiences of his total organism rather than shutting them out of his awareness. A lot of kids oftentimes will say, I had this horrible thing happen in my youth. What am I going to do? Drugs. I'm going to drink that away. I'm going to smoke that away. I'm not going to be aware of that. I want that to be dulled. I want that to be numbed. I want to suppress and deny that. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be fully functioning. Instead, I want to bottle it up. What's the danger? Depression. Explosion, anger. It can come out at some time. The obvious benefit of being open to awareness is that you can deal with the things that are there. David.
How does a fully functioning person act when they're angry? Because they can't repress the feeling, but I feel like if they acted on their anger, that would be not fully functioning as well.
They can just express it.
Yeah. Steve, what were you saying?
They can express that they're angry with their words, swears and stuff, but they don't need to act on it and hurt somebody.
Right. The expression could be one, and this is, of course, my interpretation of this. I don't know what Hayakawa would say, but the expression would be one that would allow them to express their anger, allow them to experience their feelings, not suppress them, but be able to then think back on them, to be able to manage them without hurting other people. One that I think that could benefit all parties involved. Does that answer it? Okay. All right, take a look. Because I believe that my map of the territory, again, a map is just a guideline for the territory. It's not the actual territory. A map symbolizes the territory, and if I have a map of myself, it's my self-concept. But because I believe that my map of my territory is incomplete, I don't have to be afraid when I feel or experience something that I didn't think was on the map. A lot of relationships get into trouble because people think, well, why weren't, when I first started dating you, you weren't like this. Well, that's because people change, and maybe something new is in the territory, and it's not in their map. And a lot of times we get into trouble when we think people are static and people don't change. But people change, and we have to allow for our maps of the territory to also change with those things.